So next slide, please, Andrew. And just to highlight, I'm joined by some of my Nextgen team as well. We've got Alba, Cisse, and Andreu. They're helping me make sure this runs as smoothly as possible. So again, if you do have any questions or any concerns, put them in the chat window, and one of the team will be able to pull it out for me. So it means I can concentrate on, going through these slides and focusing on what the core is of this workshop. So first thing I'll quickly go through is our vision as an organization here at Nextgen, so you know a little bit about us. And then we're going to look at the changing future of work. And this is where we're going to be challenging you, first of all, to see how much you know about the changing landscape, the fourth industrial revolution, the future of work. Then we're going to look at some questions about how maybe what we understand about the process of getting a job and how we traditionally go through the process of accessing jobs maybe isn't working as much as you think it should in regards to your child accessing their first job, but also accessing jobs in the future. I think one of the things that we do really, really badly is really understand that kind of process of what we need to do to get the jobs that ultimately make us happy and make us fulfilled. And then we're going to look a little bit at what we do in terms of supporting students and young people design their very best career through what we call our EX3 career framework. And we'll go a little bit deeper into that, which is about examining oneself, exploring careers, exploring opportunities, and then the key thing of experiences, really getting the right experiences there to make the most of career development and to ensure you're kind of making the right choices for you as an individual, for your child as an individual. And then we'll have some Q&As at the end where we can discuss a bit more openly about concerns that you maybe have with your child or with the students that you work with, or even other parents that you feel maybe need further support in terms of making sure your children make the right decisions. Okay, next slide, please. So what we do at Nextgen, our vision is we really want to empower individuals to take ownership of their future professional journey. And we do this through a range of different elements. Number one is through personal coaching. We've had a lot of experience with supporting people in their career design, not just students, also with career changers and other professionals. And we also do it through the development of content. And when I'm talking about content, this is through blogs, videos, and other content that can really support people, especially in that exploration stage of their careers, where we're accessing content from a range of future-proofed industries, of experts that really know what the future of any industry or any career really is, and that can really assess and assist people kind of take those first steps in their career development. And then we also focus on creating unique career experiences. And from our side, again, this is critical in allowing people to make informed decisions, especially young people, in their steps in regards to education, but also in career experiences that maybe they need to follow their chosen pathway in their professional life. Okay, next slide. So who are we, Nextgen? So we launched in 2011. We launched under a different brand back then. Initially, it was called Corkscrew Thinking. And again, I'll talk about that a little bit when I talk about myself and give you a bit of an introduction to it in regards to who I am. But we've got a lot of experience in this area. So for the last decade, we've been working with young people in allowing them to take ownership of their career development. And we've done this through, again, that element of coaching, content, and career experiences. We've delivered programs globally, from North America to Europe into Africa. And also, I wanted to raise this, we're very focused on ensuring that every student, every young person has accessibility to good career design and good career development. And over the last 10 years, we've probably accessed about €2 million in scholarships for young people to go on different types of experiences, mainly around Europe, but to get the support that they need to take the right decisions in their education and their career path. But we can't do this alone. And it's really interesting, seeing Katrina here tonight because, she's been a big advocate, for what we do at Nextgen. but we work with a lot of different partners. We work with strategic partnerships in universities and into high schools and into corporate relationships. And it's critical for us that we really develop these strong partnerships, because I think it's vital that the education system and private organizations work together in ensuring that young people have the best possible opportunities in regards to their career advancement. And no one organization can do it alone. No organization can educate every child in terms of career development, but we can't expect high schools and universities to take the brunt of the responsibility in ensuring that young people understand how to design their very best careers. And again, this is why we're running this workshop for parents, because they are a critical stakeholder in ensuring young people, their children, make the right decisions. And we want to be able to support that, and we want to be able to do more with parents to ensure that they're helping their children and really coaching their children to make those right decisions. And as I said, yeah, we've been supporting high schools since 2019, but it's quite a new thing for us in terms of high schools. Traditionally, we've worked a lot with universities. Just a quick point. The reason we're working more with high schools is we feel that education and career development needs to start much younger. By the time we get them in university, they've maybe already made a bad decision with the subjects that they're studying or the choices that they've made. So we want to work more with high schools in enabling young people to make the right decisions at the right time in regards to their future education that aligns with their career desires or their career goals. So me, what gives me any right to talk about career design? Why do I feel that I have something to bring? Number one, as said, I've been working in career development for the last decade. Before that, my route has been very varied. I left school at 19. I set up a business in construction. I left the construction industry and moved to the French Alps, where I had a business in hospitality. I've had businesses in Japan in education, predominantly in teaching of English as a language. And I came back to the UK about 15 years ago and got involved with traditional internships, placing university students in traditional kind of host organizations for 12-week or 6-month periods, with the idea that they would get relevant work experience. But what we found was that process was already broken. The students that we were speaking to didn't have a clear understanding of the skills that they needed to be successful in the workplace, and also the host organizations that we felt maybe didn't support them in the right way. So we actually decided to develop new programming that would help young people make more informed and better choices in their career development. But why me as an individual for parents? Well, I am a parent and I understand the pain points of supporting your children through, the choices that they need to make. And one thing I want to raise here as a parent, and I think it's kind of critical in terms of the things that we're going to go through now, is about educating parents about the future of work. It's about educating them and how they can support their kids to find that next step. But it doesn't mean as a parent, you always need to coach your child. And I think this is important to really understand. It's also about parents understanding you can bring in support to coach your children for their careers, whether that's an independent career coach, or that's a friend, or that's a business acquaintance that can support speaking to your child. Because one of the hardest things as a parent are having those difficult conversations, especially with teenagers that don't value your opinion as a parent, or you don't have that strong relationship to have open conversations with them. This is exactly the same reason why the majority of parents don't teach their children to drive. You get a professional in because that hotbed of a car when you try and teach your child to drive can be an absolute freaking nightmare. So it can be difficult educating your child in different ways, from teaching them to drive to teaching them about their career steps. Sometimes they don't want their parent to ask them, what are you going to do when you leave school? What are you going to do when you leave university? And it's about understanding you can bring in a third party, an independent third party that may have a better ability to connect with your child and what they want, because they won't be feeling like they're letting that third party down. Your child will always potentially have an expectation of what you want them to do and what you feel you would like them to do, because you will talk about how you never got to do what you wanted to do. And you will talk about how, you know, you didn't have the same opportunities and you wish you'd done something else at university and you only hope they could go to university. But sometimes that feeling is pushed onto them over years and years of living with you. So sometimes that third party individual and bringing them in can be something that works very, very well in regards to supporting your child through their career development. And many of you may have, you know, schools that have a very strong career department. I know Katrina with the school she's at, it's a phenomenal career department. And, you know, utilizing the school's resources there and really engaging with them is something that, you know, a lot of parents are now very lucky to have it. It's making sure you're having the question with your school in regards to what the career support is there for your child. Okay, next slide, please, Andrew. So here we go. This is the first quiz. Get your phones ready, fingers at the ready, because now we're going to talk about the changing future of work. And as a parent, it is vital that you understand the changes that are not just coming, but that are here now. And I think this is one thing that we should all take more responsibility of, is really understanding, you know, what our young people are going into, because the working world is very much a different place. So first question, please, Andre. Quiz time. What percentage of companies will reduce their workforce by 2025 due to technological integration? What percentage of companies will reduce their workforce by 2025 due to technological integration? Okay, 27. Well, we've got some differences. Okay, let's wait for it to do its thing. Okay, it's 43%. So automation at the moment, this is one thing really that we need to understand. The majority of you actually got this right, is we're getting this double disruption at the moment, not just through, you know, the future of work, the fourth industrial revolution, but now we have this double disruption of COVID. And I know we're all bored of hearing it, but what it's done is it accelerated us probably 10 years into the future. Everything that we've been doing and educators have been trying to do in that slow progress of we'll catch up with the future of work, it's too late. It's here now. You know, 2025 is 4 years away, 3.5 years away. And due to this increase in technological integration, there'll be that kind of reduced workforce of about 43%, which is quite scary, you know, for a young person thinking already there's a displacement of work through this scenario. Okay, next question. Quiz time. In the same time frame, so by 2025, what percentage of companies will increase their use of contractors? 9%, 27%, or 41%? What do we think? So their use of external contractors. What do we think people will do? Are we low? Are we on 9%? Are we high? 41%? Are we in the middle? 27%. Okay, next slide. Who we got? See, it looks like you're nailing this. There's a clear favorite at the top already. She knows her stuff. So in this same time frame, companies are going to increase the use of contractors by 41%. Now, the key thing for this as a parent to really understand is that the rise of the gig economy, this idea that companies are going to start actually looking for externals to cover a lot of the work, which makes them more agile, makes it easier for them to expand or contract their workforce depending on the projects they're working on, any particular scenario they're going through at any one time. It allows them to stay lean and nimble. And this use of contractors is this rise of the gig economy, is that the majority of young people by, you know, the next kind of 10 years or so will have up to 3 or 4 jobs at the same time. They're going to be having multiple jobs. They're going to be juggling lots of different things. So I think as a parent, we have to really understand that traditional format of a job for life is not around like it used to be. Even that one job at one time is not around. You know, people are going to have to juggle a lot of jobs at the same time. And it's ensuring that our children understand this, that they can multitask, that they can do a multitude of different things. And they can really kind of handle also that independence of potentially working for themselves. And I think there's a stat in the US that said it's something like 47 or around about 50% of people will be freelance in the next 10 years. So again, it's allowing young people to really understand that that traditional format of going into a job and working within an organization is less and less likely as time moves on. Okay, next question. Question 3. See if you're still good at this. So by 2025, what time split will be spent on current tasks at work by humans and machines? So we want you to think about who's going to be working more. Is it going to be the humans that are working more? Is it going to be the machines that are working more? Or is it equal? So by 2025, what will that split be? Okay, 2, 1, 0. Okay, humans work more than robots, just about edges it. And then we've got robots will do more than humans. Bit of a trick question, this one, because what we actually see is it's equal. It's in the middle in 2025, but it's shifting. I think, in another 5 years, we're going to see more robots taking over a lot of those jobs that are currently done by humans. But again, it's really to educate our young people, again, our children on this, that the jobs of the world are changing. The things that we used to do as humans are going to be taken by robots, from flipping burgers. Andreu shared something in our kind of independent Slack channel about how robots will start working in grocery stores. So even those service learning positions that we used to have, it's going to change, and it will be done more by robots than by humans. Okay, next question. What number of jobs will be displaced by 2025 due to the future changes in work? So this isn't about companies reducing their workforce. We want to know the number of jobs that will be displaced, will be lost through the future changes in work by 2025. Again, not a huge amount of time away. 73 million, 85 million, or 96 million? 85 million, I think majority got it right. 85. Still, I see her at the top there, still at the top. Okay, so 85 million is right. And again, this is a pretty worrying statistic. I think, again, it shows the amount of jobs that will become redundant in this future of work. And it's making sure as parents, we really understand which of those jobs are going to be displaced, which are the industries that are going to be most impacted. I'm lucky enough, I work in a co-work space. I own a co-work space here in the southwest of the UK. And I get to keep my ear on the ground of the organizations in the industries that are really being impacted by this. We hear lawyers continually worried about, the use of AI in their jobs. Accountants, I use Xero. My accountant becomes less and less important to me. They're still vital for some elements, but for my general bookkeeping, definitely not as much as it used to be. We've got a translator in here that gave a talk up at Exeter University. We've got students at Exeter University that are on a three-year degree on translation. He went up there and says, the first things first, the majority of you that think you're going to have a job in translation, forget about it. Google does it quicker, easier, and cheaper than you guys. So again, it's just being aware of what jobs will be displaced in the future of work. And this information's out there. It's knowledge or content is key here. Knowledge is key. It's critical. Okay, next question. And this relates to this. So we've spoken about the jobs that will be displaced. What number of jobs will be created by 2025 due to the future of work changes? So it's 85 million will be displaced. How many will be created? 47 million, 68 million, or 97 million? What do we think? Fingers on the buttons. Are we going to have a new leader on the leaderboard? Who have we got? Okay. We've got one person with it right. 97 million. And the reason I wanted to put this question in, the reason for this question is the future of work can sometimes be scary. And as a parent, you get worried. I'm worried about my kids. There was a statistic that said, I think by the time my kids had graduated, 65% of the jobs out there wouldn't yet exist. And there'll be 85 million jobs lost. So you're like, well, what am I sending my kids into? But the really exciting thing is there's more jobs being created through these changes in technology than there have been lost. 97 million new jobs are going to be created by 2025 with these changes in work. But again, it's that idea of knowledge is king here, in the fact that what are these jobs? What are the jobs that people are going to need to kind of work in? Drone engineers, e-sport coaches, cyber security, culture, crafts people. There'll be all sorts of new things that are arriving. But the worst thing is, us as parents, we need to know what they are. And we need to have our finger on the pulse to ensure that we can at least understand what those new jobs are. Because I know a lot of people that think playing games is no good, but actually, you know, the esport business is booming. You know, I think they say there's going to be more people watching esports in the next decade than every single live sport put together. It's ridiculous, but those esports need coaches, they need managers, they need events. It's going to change, it's going to adapt, and we have to evolve with that. And we have to understand that we need to be aware of those changes. And again, this is why from our side at Nextgen, we focus on that content creation. We look for it. We make sure it's going to enable you to make the right decisions with your child and to allow them to open up and explore those new possibilities through this future of work. Okay, next question. So on average, what percentage of workers will require reskilling? So we've got to think, you know, 97 million new jobs. How many people, and this is in the current workforce, how many people or what percentage of people are going to need to be reskilled? And again, think about yourself, think about in your own job. Do you need to be reskilled? Okay. Oh, nice. Woo! You're probably all going through the process now of having to be upskilled in your roles. 40% of the workforce will need to be reskilled in the next few years. And the reason that we wanted to focus on this question is really for you to understand the skills that you need to reskill in, but also the skills that you need to focus and ensure your child or your students have. When we look at organizations and the skill sets they require, it's not so much those technical skills that people are after. It is those dynamic personal skills, creative thinking, analysis, problem solving, self-management, such as active learning, resilience, stress tolerance, flexibility. These are the skills that people are going to need. These are the skills that we're needed to redevelop in our workforce, and we need to ensure our young people have them from the offset. And I think this is, from my side, the easiest way to do this is, you know, we get our children to understand that we're also on that journey. And we take out the idea that, you know, these are not important skills, and we focus on it. We focus on how resilient they are at school and how that relates not just to them at school, but when they graduate. You know, the stress that they maybe go through from being bullied at school and how they overcome that to, you know, working on a difficult subject that they're struggling with. These are all vital skills that they're going to need in the future of work. How they communicate and deal with difficult situations with their peers or with their teachers. We've got to put more emphasis on ensuring that our young people really understand the value of how they're developing these skills and how they can further develop them. And we work a lot in really making people understand, you know, the importance if something goes wrong, that's okay. How you can anecdotally use that to show someone how you've dealt with stress, how you've been tolerant, how you've been flexible. But it's really understanding that it is no longer necessarily about those technical skills, because most organizations can teach those now. But it's about those dynamic skills that are far harder to teach in the workplace, that we need to make sure that we're educating our children and allowing them to understand, you know, what that means. And I do it, like my kids are a younger age, at 8 and 10, but we're already starting to really understand about resilience, about that flexibility, about that adaptability, about those creative problem solving skills that they need, and really building an understanding of how critical they are as they move into high school, as they choose their next step, whether that's university or career. But it's really important to focus on those elements. Okay, next slide. What percentage of the workforce will work remotely in some capacity by 2025? So work remotely by 2025, what percentage of the workforce? And this can be in some capacity. I'm not talking about 100% remote. It's about in some capacity or another will work remotely. One person again, 75%. The reason we want to talk about this is, again, when you're speaking to your child, chances are they're going to have to work remotely in their job, as we all have done over the last 12 months. However, this is not a trend that has just come about through COVID. This was the movement of how organizations were going to work. And the key thing for a parent to understand here is, number one, it does make it a more competitive landscape, but it also means your child's opportunities aren't just in the local area. All of a sudden they become international. All of a sudden they become, you know, a global citizen where they can work with a multitude of more organizations and more opportunities than they've ever had before. But when you are thinking about experience, don't ignore the fact that actually online experience is super valuable, is super relevant, and it allows them to become independent. It allows them to work in a very, very different way. As an owner of a co-work space, I'm very happy with this move. It means hopefully I become busier than ever as more people work flexibly and work remotely. But prepare your child for this. Get them comfortable with working in a remote capacity, in how they work on Zoom, in how they work in a digital capacity, in how they interact in a digital forum, of which they probably do better than most parents, because when they're on Fortnite, they're dealing with all their friends remotely. But it's a good skill for them to have. And it's how they can move that into a professional environment. Okay, next slide. Okay, so we're talking about the future of work and things that we need to think about as a parent in these changing landscapes. The thing I'll finish on is the future's bright. It is so exciting to see what's going to happen in the future. But as a parent, we need to make sure that we stay educated and informed so we can allow our kids to be more informed. And unfortunately, due to one of these, our kids tend to be more informed than we are. So we have to stay one step ahead of the curve. We need to make sure we're doing that extra bit of research in the jobs that are out there, the careers that are out there. You know, I don't see many kids making mistakes on Zoom. You know, all of us have made our mistakes, and over COVID, we've seen some hideous mistakes that no one would want to ever live through. And it would especially embarrass your children if some of that ever made it onto the wide world web. So now the second step in terms of the job, the kind of thing that we want to chat about, we've spoken about future work, is the job search. And I say in the team at Nextgen, we work with a lot of individuals, not just students, not just high school students, university students, and career changers. And I'm surprised by the little that people know about how to find a job and how not to find a job. So we'll go through a few questions. So the first question, quiz time, quiz time. On average, each corporate job attracts 250 resumes. Of those candidates, how many will be asked for an interview? So not necessarily the job, how many will be asked for an interview? Each corporate job attracts 250 resumes. Of those candidates, how many will be asked for an interview? 4 to 6, 7 to 15, 16 to 30. Pretty good, pretty good. Yeah, it's 4 to 6. And I think most of us know this. We hear it if we're on LinkedIn, if we're working in careers, we kind of know these stats. And again, I'm taking my stats from one area that it might be a bit flux in different kind of materials or content that you find, or statistics you find. The key thing here is that reaching out through a job application, in sending in your resume, is fundamentally flawed because it's so competitive. You know, you're going up against 249 other individuals. Your child is in a super competitive landscape. You want to make sure they have the best chance to succeed. Next question. Quiz time. How many job applications on average does it take to get one job offer? So again, you're saying to your child, apply for as many jobs as you can. Yes, just keep applying. How many job applications on average does it take? How many times will they need to apply to get a job? Is it 1 to 25, 26 to 100, or 101 to 200? What do you think? You're right, most of you, 101 to 200 applications to secure one job. The reason, again, that we want to talk about this is if you're highlighting to a young person to go through that stage of applying, and this is a stat that I might talk about in a minute as well. A lot of us, or the majority of people, are unhappy in their jobs. And they're unhappy in their jobs because of the way we search for jobs. Because if we're applying for 101 to 200 job advertisements, It's not our first choice or our second choice or our third choice. So we're taking what's on offer, not what we want, which is a huge mistake. We want to be taking jobs that we really want. Okay, so how many job applicants? We've done this one. We can move on to the next one. Next quiz question. What percentage of jobs are publicly advertised? So again, we're getting our kids to apply for all these jobs on LinkedIn or on Handshake. Not a big fan of Handshake. Or other online platforms, Craigslist or wherever it might be. What percentage of them are advertised of all the openings that are out there? Is it 20, 40 or 60%? How many are actually advertised? None of you got this. Only 20% of jobs are ever publicly advertised, which means if we're telling our children to go through that process of looking for a job on LinkedIn or a jobs board, they're missing out on 80% of the jobs that are available. We're saying to them, you go into this narrow pond here and you compete with everyone else in this narrow pond. Whereas at 80%, they're not even aware of. Okay, next question. Okay, now this leads on from the last question. What percentage of jobs are filled via networking? So obviously if it's 20%, we're kind of leading in from the last one. 20% are only publicly advertised. What percentage are filled via networking? 60, 72, or 85%? It's 85%. 85% of jobs are filled through networking. And this says something to me. As soon as I heard this statistic, it's like, we're doing things in the wrong way. We need to be educating our kids, not how to apply for jobs, but how to network, how to build their network. And again, I'm super fortunate. I got 2 kids that come to my co-work space on a regular basis. At 8 and 10, I'm already lining them up with networking opportunities with my colleagues in the space. 85% filled through networking. It's that age-old adage of it's not what you know, it's who you know. And we need to allow our children to start connecting. We're not all born with friends that are super connectors. So again, we have to empower, educate, and train our young people on how to network. Okay, next. Okay, 46% of new hires failed within the first month of employment. 89% of those first fails were due to one main reason. What was it? Lack of relevant technical skills, personality alignment, or salary. So 46% of hires, which is interesting in its own right, fail within, it's not actually month, it's within the first year of employment, within the first year of employment. 89% were due to one main reason. Okay, some of you got it right, it's personality alignment. It's not salary, it's not lack of relevant technical skills. It's because the individual and the company don't match. The values aren't aligned. So again, this is why it's really important that we really understand what our young people want to achieve in their career, in their professional development. And it also goes back to the fact that most people, after 150 applications, are taking the job because no one else wanted, they couldn't find anything else. And then they're in a company they don't really like, not sharing the same values. And after a year, they're like, I've had enough of this. I'm leaving, I'm going to go and find something else. But then they go into that same route, that same routine of going to apply for that 20% of jobs that are publicly advertised, not really wanting it and not really having fulfillment in their job. Okay, next question. What percentage of Gallup poll workers are unfulfilled in their jobs? So this was Gallup conducted this, and it was a global poll. What percentage of current workers in the workforce are unfulfilled in their jobs? 65%, 75%, 85%. Don't think of yourself, because I'm sure you're all very happy in your jobs, but think about those other people. 85%. 85% of people are unfulfilled in their jobs, which is why it's ridiculous that us as parents should be educating our children, because the majority of us are getting it wrong anyway. We don't like our jobs. We're not enjoying them. We feel unfulfilled. We have a real opportunity to make sure our children are doing it far better, that they are doing it in a way where they can be matched with the jobs, that they can find that fulfillment. And again, it's probably not in that 20% of jobs that's advertised. You can see kind of where I'm leaning to here. Okay, next. What percentage of millennials consider culture fit to be a deciding factor when accepting a job opening? 60%, 70%, 80%. We use millennials. I think the next generation will probably be the same. I don't think this is going to change that greatly. Yes, everyone's right, 80%. It's a big decision for young people. They want to find organizations where there is that culture fit. They're no longer driven as much by salary, money. They are far, far cleverer than us in terms of trying to find organizations that match their values and their goals, ultimately that makes them happier. Okay, next question. Okay, no more questions. That was it. That was a quiz. So no more pressure on you guys. The reason that we want to do a quiz is sometimes hearing some of the stats is like, okay, so I kind of get it. You know, number one, the future of work is changing. There's lots of things that we need to understand and that we need to kind of keep abreast of. But the second thing in terms of that traditional job search, of getting our young people, our children, to apply for jobs that are out there doesn't make sense. It's fundamentally flawed. And this isn't just our opinion at Nextgen. This is from the statistics. We need to be ensuring our children really understand that it is through the process of understanding who they are and what they value and finding those organizations that match their values and connecting with them and networking. And this is why at Nextgen Careers, we developed our EX3 framework, which is so simple. It is not anything complex or difficult to understand. It is a simple career framework that will assist and guide individuals to design a professional pathway for working life success. And success is very different for many different people. E, we examine. And we examine self. And this is the difficult part of having a child, is really having these conversations where they do feel comfortable in telling you about who they are and what they do. Because I know teenagers, we work with teenagers, and we find teenagers can open up far more to us as independent advisors than they can to their parents. But it's about having those open conversations. And I'm starting to try and do it now with my kids when they're young. So it's a habit that they get into, that they talk about what makes them happy, what makes them sad, what they feel empowered by, what they feel excited about. But it's really about them examining who they are as individuals. And this is important because we no longer have work and personal life. It's just life. We're a really fortunate generation to have that. We just have life. We spend the majority of our time at work. I'm super fortunate. I love coming to work. I love speaking to people. I love dealing in this stuff. I love having some sort of impact, however small. But I'm fortunate, I found that. But it took me up until, what, 30, 34 to find that. I didn't find fulfillment in the other things that I had. But it's examining self. It's then about examining values. What's important to them as a young person? What do they really value? And again, this is where it can be difficult as a parent, because if their values don't align with your own, it creates conflict. And dealing with that conflict can be very, very difficult. Next. Examining their dynamic skills and ensuring their dynamic skills. And we're talking about those personal skills, that creativity, that communication, that resilience, and really understanding that they can talk anecdotally about it. And it doesn't have to be in a workplace environment. It could be things that they've done through their childhood, when they've gone to guides or brownies or swimming lessons, that they've developed skills in different ways. That time where my daughter was able to persevere through doing butterfly, which she hated, and she would swallow, her stomach used to look like an Easter egg after she finished doing butterfly. But she persevered, and that was a great skill to develop. And we need to really ensure that all of the things that our young people are doing, that we're referring back to these dynamic skills, that they're able to talk about it and they're able to understand how important they are. Next. It's also looking at their technical skills. It's looking at the abilities that they have. And again, technical skills could be from playing an instrument all the way through to coding on a Raspberry Pi. But it's about them understanding the ability to learn, because that's all technical skills are, is an ability to learn something. So if they can learn to play the piano, they can learn to do something else. They can teach themselves. There's an active learner to learn to code, to learn about SEO, to learn about digital advertising, to learn about how to reprogram a drone that's going to take them to, you know, to a city to Uber or whatever it's going to be. But these technical skills is about not necessarily the skills that they have, but the fact that they can learn it and the fact that they can show people that they can develop something in a practical way. So once we have examined, we know what their values are. And from that process of examination, we ask a couple of questions. You know, if you could have a job related to underscore hobby, what would it be? If you could have a skill related to your dynamic skill of communication, what could it be? Then we move to this next question of that questioning in exploring the answers to that question. This is tricky. And this is where a parent's help can come in, because this is about you as a parent understanding what's out there and what the possibilities are for that skill set and showing your child how to search for them. When we talk about exploring industries, as I said, I'm super fortunate. This is what we do on a daily basis. We look for new industries, we explore new industries, and we push it out there as free content. So, you know, by following what we do, you will see these new industries, and these new industries you might share with your children because it might be related to a hobby they have or a skill that they have. Next one. Companies, your work, you'll have friends of friends. Sometimes I think we very much treat our professional lives as a bit of a taboo. We've got to be more open with what we do and share what we do with our friends to give our peers, our parent peers, support in terms of if their child's interested in what we do as a career. Let's speak more about our careers. Let's speak to other about our careers, about our companies, and about what we do. Also, as a parent, you probably live in a city that has a co-work space. Engage with that co-work space. Find out what companies are there. Find out what local companies you have. Speak to your school about companies that are involved in the career development. But again, a lot of this exploration has to be sometimes led by a parent, and encourage the child to come with you on that exploration as well, which can be difficult. But if you can find formats and resources that resonate with your child, that's also beneficial. Job roles are changing. You know, there are new job roles every other day, something new is arriving. And again, this is something that just takes an interest. If you have an interest in how the world of careers is changing, and you follow different jobs boards and news articles, you will see these job roles. But again, if you speak to people, if you're active on LinkedIn and you look for people outside of your area, you will see these new job roles. And again, it's about encouraging your child to follow that journey. You know, and when I say about LinkedIn, I would advise, you know, 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds to be present on these sort of areas where they can sit and scroll and see new professions, new industries. If they want, again, you don't want to force them into this format, but it is definitely something that is worth exploring. And people. This for me is by far the most important thing, because everything else beforehand in terms of exploration always comes down to people. Find the engaging people. You must know people in careers that are engaging individuals. Get them to speak to your child. They will do it. You know, we are all in the same boat. We want to help people. We want to inspire a younger generation. We want to make sure the younger generation are making the right decisions. And this is why we work more closely with organizations and companies, because we feel they're not taking responsibility for assisting schools in career development. Too often I hear companies saying, the next generation are not work ready. The next generation do not have the skill sets. But how often do we see companies get involved in local initiatives with their local schools? Far too few. I put a post out on LinkedIn asking my connections, my community, how many of you think you do enough to support young people on their career development? I think 20% said yes, 80% said no. This is a massive issue. We are all stakeholders in ensuring our young people, our children, are supported in the future of work. Companies, educators, parents, and students. So once we've examined what we want to do and we've explored and we've found people that maybe match those hobbies that we have, the next thing is about finding relevant experiences. But it's not just experiences that are work experience. I think for young people, this is very, very hard. In the UK, and I'm sure in many of your destinations, it's very, very difficult for a young person to get work experience because of all the health and safety and the legalities that we need to go through to ensure a safe environment for a young person to be in our workplaces. It is hard because people are saying, but you don't have experience. Where's your experience coming from? You have to be creative. And companies don't just look for work experience. It could also be things like, please, Andrea, next slide. Experience by projects. These are projects that maybe they've worked on at school. You know, we're fortunate enough with some of the schools that we work with, they go through live projects, live sprints of 6 days on things like storytelling challenges, brand storytelling, influencer strategies, engineering projects, fashion projects. These are hugely relevant. It's only 6-day sprints, but they have a lot of value because it allows a young person to talk anecdotally about those dynamic skills that they have. But not only does it show anecdotal proof of what they can do, it also allows them to test a potential industry that they're interested in. And projects are fairly simple to arrange with clients, with local organizations. They're more than willing to support young people and give short projects too. You don't have to come to an office any longer. As said, the future of work is working remotely. There are a multitude of projects that you can access online. And when we talk about projects, these can also be simulations. It doesn't have to be necessarily with a real organization. They can find a simulation project that they can work on. You know, there is, again, a plethora of different simulations out there on a multitude of websites that allow young people to build up portfolios of projects that they have completed. And again, it doesn't have to be extended periods of time. It could be a weekend that they've worked on this, a 6-day period in a summer break, a couple of hours a day to create a piece of work that can really anecdotally show what they can work on. Next. Games. We wanted to kind of bring games in here as well, because everything's an experience. You know, the games that they play, and Andrea shared with the team internally, an organization that is showing young people how they can turn the skills that they developed in gaming into relevant skills that employers are looking for. So when they're playing Fortnite, when they're playing Roblox, I think that's one my girls play, it's not just about the play. It's like, what skills are you developing there? Let's see how we can turn those into something anecdotally that an employer is going to be interested in and can show how you have those dynamic or those technical skills. Next one. This is by far my favorite. And this is by far the reason I am where I am today. Travel, meeting people, communicating. I'm not the brightest spark in the tool in the toolbox, but I can communicate. I can leverage my experiences and my partnerships from the people that I've met, from the things that I've seen. Travel is such an underrated part of our personal and professional development. And it's one thing I would really encourage, even from young people, from my kids' age. We went interrailing around Europe. The experiences that they developed there, you know, dealing with me for 4 weeks, that's a lot of stress. That's a lot of adaptability you need, being in the same room with me for four weeks. But it's how they can use these experiences and how they can utilize them in engaging and networking with potential employers. Okay, next slide. So as said, in terms of a parent, it's not about getting your young child, your teenager to work on the perfect resume. It's not about showing them the interview skills that they're going to need. It's about working with them in understanding who they are as an individual, the values that they have, the skills that they have, the skills they want to develop. And it's helping them explore the opportunities that are out there. And I remember when I was young, you know, the only choice I was given was, okay, when you finish school, it's university. What do you want to go and do? Here's a UCAS book. Flick through that. I flicked through it and I found criminology because most of my mates were criminals. No, they weren't. So I wanted to understand what the makeup was. But that's the only thing I could find. I didn't know what was out there. I didn't know the possibilities. And again, we have these now. You know, we have the ability to explore from the comfort of our own home, but we also have the ability to explore in our local communities by going to co-work spaces, by going to events, Eventbrite, LinkedIn events. There's so much out there that we can get our kids involved with and get them excited about. Getting excited about writing a resume or going through an interview process is not exciting. And then it's about the experiences that they get and not just thinking as a parent that it has to be work experience. How can we turn their practical experiences that they have through the projects they do at school, all the way through to their hobbies? How can we turn that into something that an employer is going to find valuable? Because next slide. this element of a perfect resume is a waste of time when you go back to think about 80% of the jobs that are out there are never advertised. Because what we should be educating our children to do is engage and feel confident engaging with professionals, in learning from professionals, in building relationships. And by doing that, we get them connected, and we can use things like LinkedIn, or we can take them to work and we can bring them into real conversations. And again, this is somewhat a little bit of a worry of mine, that we silo students into this mold over here. They go through high school, they go into university thinking of themselves as students, and they only start thinking of themselves as professionals as they take that step into the real working world. That's too late. We should be considering them as professionals now. I was 15 when I had my first job, a paper boy. I'd probably go back. I love being a paper boy. It's great, but you're a professional. You're working. Let's embrace that. Let's not wrap them up in this cotton wool of being a student, because what we find is by the time our university students are finishing, they focus so much on their academia that the only thing they can do to get a job is apply for those 100 or 150 job applications that they get for a company that they don't want. What they should have been doing in that time is examining what they want and exploring who's out there and connecting with those people and having those open conversations. Then when they finish university, it's that easy transition into the workplace. They've already got their job lined up 1 year into university, 2 years into university. Not that idea that I'm going to finish my academic studies and then look for a job. The only way that's ever going to work is if you as a parent are willing to fund them for the next 2 to 5 years in exploring and finding those opportunities. And unfortunately, I'm not willing as a parent to fund my child through university or through their hobby of traveling the world to find themselves. So we need to start doing it now. We need to start educating our kids now in terms of those next steps. Okay, Q&A. It's like 1 minute, but we can go on for as long as you need. I don't have any commitments. My kids are at home, hopefully looking for a job. Okay, any questions? And feel free, you don't have to write them. I think there's not too many of us that we can just open the floor and you can ask directly.
So I read an article by, I think it was Harvard Business Review, I'm not sure. And they were saying that right now there are more jobs in the United States. There are more jobs than people to fill the positions. So workers are being very mobile because they can pick and choose. So they're leaving their jobs and going elsewhere. And by what you're saying, maybe when if they decide to come back, the job won't exist anymore, maybe because of all this transiency. So I'm wondering if jumping from one place to the next is going to be beneficial in terms of acquiring more connections and more abilities, or not, for a short period of time, not for the whole life, of course.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Like we're seeing in the UK as well. I've not read that report in terms of there's a lot of jobs that can't be filled at the moment. There's a lot of jobs. And I think a lot of that has to do with also, there's a big skill, like in the UK, there's a massive skill shortage of the kind of individuals that people need at this current time. And I think it's somewhat affected by COVID as well in terms of how technology's increased so fast. You know, a lot of those jobs that were potentially, you know, not necessarily e-commerce because it was mum and pop stores on the side have now gone online and they need websites. Everyone I know in tech, you know, is crazy busy. And, you know, people can code it. They're lacking coders at the moment, you know, people that really understand that. And that's a specific skill. But even in the future, whether or not coding is going to be needed is a bigger question, as, you know, AI and machine learning will start doing that for us. But they used to say, you know, if you can learn a language, learn code. But it's also things like the hospitality sector. All of a sudden, those people that in the hospitality sector that have been furloughed, and again, I'm using the UK as an example here, they've had the last 12 months to retrain and actually think, do I want to work in hospitality in the service industry where I'm working weekends and I'm working nights? I've just retrained. I can get a 9 to 5 doing tech. So we're seeing a huge displacement across different industries in different sectors because of the current impact. I think when you're talking about leaving jobs and will it change and you go back and something else, I think for a young person is more about, you know, at the beginning, taking them through testing as much as possible through these kind of small projects, so they get a better understanding of what they would like to do when they finish university or they finish high school and they go into that first job. I think, unfortunately, what we see at the moment is too many young people going through the education system with no clear understanding of who they are, what they want to do, what they want to do next, why they're studying what they're studying at university, and then going into any old job because they need to start paying the rent and then not being fulfilled in that job. And then, you know, you get into that habit of switching and changing jobs. And I would argue realistically at the moment is getting as much experience for a young person as possible and exposing them to as many different things as possible, so they don't have to flit and change between lots of different organizations and lots of different jobs. It's about trying to allow them to make informed decisions as soon as they can. And it might be that within 2 years, there's another job that becomes available and that's a better fit for them. But again, they would have done that research, because the examine, explore and experience, it's a loop. You keep going on it. You know, we're always on it. You and I are on it. You know, tonight, this might finish and our report reviews that was awful, Neil. You know, give up your day job, go and find something else, and I'll be crying in the corner somewhere. And I'll be like, okay, time for me to do something new. Did I enjoy that? What else is out there for me? Let's get some experience and let's try something. So I think, you know, it's more about getting people to understand, is the job I'm also currently in, does it match what I want? Because again, I think too many people leave jobs without speaking to their boss or speaking to their immediate line director in terms of, okay, I'm not happy with my job because of this. I found this over here. Can we talk about my role and how that can be improved? But that's again because how people communicate, they're not very good at it. It's like, I found a job over there, so rather than me have an awkward conversation with my boss, I'm going to leave. And it's about, again, just educating people to be honest and authentic with what they want with themselves, but also potentially those people that are employing them. But it's a difficult one. And again, there's so many opportunities out there. So many. What to choose, what to do. And again, I was 36. 36. I found it now, but there's no reason that won't change in the future. Any other questions? Okay, if nothing else, should we see who won? Well, see, I think you might have won. I don't know. I think maybe some people have left. Obviously, my contacts here will share it. Let's see who the winner is. Who's the winner? Da, da, da. Oh, third. Priscilla, you're third. Second, Dr. Tanuya. And first, woo! Congratulations. You now have the benefit of being so well educated that we're going to come to you to give the next presentation. I just want to say thanks ever so much, guys, for joining. I know a few of you have dropped off. We'll share this with yourself. I'm going to follow up with each of you individually. I'd be really interested in finding out your backgrounds, whether you're coming as a parent or you're coming as an educator. From our side, we want to work with more and more people. We want to share our framework. We want feedback on it. And we want to kind of go on this journey with other individuals. So if you think it's relevant for other parents, we'll do more of these sessions. We'll do them on different topics. And also we want to learn from parents, you know, what are the pain points? What are you struggling with your child? Is it that conversation piece? Or is it, you know, the fact that you don't understand how to educate in that career development? Feel free to give your feedback. Again, thanks ever so much for giving up your time. Enjoy where you are. I hope, you know, obviously in Brazil, I hope you guys are staying safe and everywhere else. But feel free to connect and look forward to hopefully chatting to you more. Okay, guys. Ciao, ciao, ciao. Team, stay on. Next Gen team, you can stay on.